Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to NFR. It's Thursday night. It's time for DRS. This is season 11, round 4. We're in Japan, Suzuka, and as you can see, weather conditions being very Suzuka-like. Of course, 19 drivers in the field this evening, so every single qualifying session here, a lot to play for. As things stand, 4 drivers would be knocked out at the end of Q1. Already had Dan Rittveld retire. It might be related to some sort of penalty because that's very early on. "19 drivers, that means 1 is retired. We will lose 3 drivers at the end of Q1. Of course, if anybody knows, let me know. Is this isolated to qualifying, or are we going to see more of it in the race? Wet race in Japan is always an interesting one. Riding now with J-Boy, just coming to terms with the circuit, coming to terms with the conditions. I think they're on intermediates. There we go, everyone on inters, with the exception of Arno Ghost, but he's sitting in the pits. Don't think he's going to go out with that tyre selection anytime soon. Grubus goes for the wet compound, so not sure, are the conditions getting better, are they getting worse? Some drivers thinking of wet, some drivers thinking of softs. Here's Rota, one of the 2 RBs. Actually, who is missing a teammate? I'll try and figure that out. I'll figure it out eventually. If I look at that for too long, you're just going to have silence on your screen. So, Rota, 0 to cool, Nick Gishin, all out, looking for lap times early on. That sort of suggests to me that the session isn't going to be getting any better. If they knew the track would be improving, I think we'd only see more activity a little later on in the session, but track is busy. I don't think it'll get any wetter than this. I think if the conditions were going to get even worse, I think we'd see everyone out on track. We wouldn't see a handful of cars still in the pits. Of course, unlike the other races streamed on NFR, here at DRS, they run a full quali session. Means Q1, in this instance, we'll lose 3 drivers, then Q2, 5 drivers, and then the top 10 go through to Q3 and set the grid for the top 10. Of course, last night, something very different. We had a sprint race on another league, and that was a one-shot quali, so very different formats. Will first man over the line and therefore into provisional pole, then Panda second one over the line, P2, then J-Boy. Staying in the order that they cross the line. So far Will, Panda and J-Boy, those are the only drivers to have set a lap time. Sigrid goes up into P2. If I'm not mistaken, that was the pole sitter from the last round. Nick Gishin up into provisional pole, 141. Is that a 141.5? Yes it is. It's a 141.5. Means he's half a second quicker than anyone else out on track so far. Rota looking for that first lap time, as is Zero to Cool, his teammate we just mentioned, in pole position. Zero to Cool does set a lap time 44.6, takes him up into P6 of the 6 drivers to have set lap times. We have Wezo, Rota, Arno Koos, Fuster, Kurbis, Kev, everybody out on circuit right now. The pit lane is vacant. Of course, we have the 19 runners, but Dan Redfeld won't take part in qualifying, so just the 18 cars. We're right on board with the Sauber, his teammate in P6, 144.1. Wezo, no time just yet. Currently going through Spoon. And the exit just so important. That will be the quickest part of the racetrack in order to get that top speed. It's all about the exit of Spoon. If you get that wrong, especially if we have a dry race, we have DRS situations. Don't want to have a bad run off that corner. Wezo about to set his first lap time, is he? And really look at that. His teammate was in provisional pole not so long ago, now he's in provisional pole. Sauber into P1. And as I say that, scrap the Sauber party. I was going to say Sauber doing fantastically P1, P4, but scrap that. We have a all scarlet red front row. Of course, this does not set your final grid. It's just to see who gets eliminated. I got a notice that we've actually had somebody join the session, so we're up to 20 drivers. Dan Redfeld, as I mentioned, didn't take part in qualifying. But when we do get underway in the race, we're going to have 20 drivers into turn 1 in Suzuka. Hopefully not under these conditions, otherwise things could get really spicy. Goes over, I think this is an in-lap. Just going wide there over the curb. Don't get too bothered with it if it is an in-lap. Sometimes they're not in laps because what guys tend to do in these conditions is they just fuel up a little extra than usual. And they go out and they have a 2 or 3 lap run in qualifying, which is something you won't see in the dry on slicks. That's what the rain can do, it just switches things up a little. Welcome to Spikes in the comment section. 20 driver field. Fantastic to see. Nick Gishin has since retired from the session as well, but his lap time does look more than safe for top 15. Remember, no Dan Rittveld, but there will be the 4 eliminations. Fuster, Cowboy, Nam, Assassin and Dan are the current 4 cars at risk. So both McLarens currently in the elimination zone. 1 Red Bull and 1 Mercedes. Wankies goes over the line, splits the Ferraris. Shane the only one in the 159s, currently half a second quicker than the rest of the field. But remember, this doesn't mean much. This only means a lot to those drivers at the rear of the field. They want to go through to Q2. We don't know what the conditions are going to be like going forward. Of course, in the race we don't know, but going forward into qualifying. Remember, after this we've got Q2, we've got Q3. We could have one of those sessions ending in the dry, transition to the slicks. Maybe we have this throughout. Maybe we go full wets. Really don't know what Q2 and Q3 holds. There is a driver there. It's not that's sitting in the pits and also in the comms box. Let me know what's the weather predicted to look like. Currently, doesn't look like the conditions are getting any better. It's the same as the beginning of the session. The Aston Martin of Will dives into the pits. As soon as I go on board with somebody, they dive into the pits. Arnakos in P13, 141.3. Really, if he just finds 2/10, can go all the way from P13 to P7. It's just how close the lap times are in the midfield. But of course, the driver's at risk. Dan, currently in the pits. Namassassin out on track in the Red Bull. Buster, the other McLaren, also in the pits. And then Quibus in the Aston Martin, currently P16 and quite a ways away from where he wants to be. He needs to find about half a second to secure that P15. Let's see if Namassassin can climb out of that position. I think that was just an out lap. He didn't record a lap. Actually, he's got 4 laps on those inters. Those are one of those runs I was talking about. Just you can see Panda as well, 5 laps on the inters. Everybody just using that first set of inters maybe to acclimatise to the circuit, not all outright pace. Dan just getting all out of shape, getting it on the grass. It's a difficult race circuit, especially when you can't keep it on the tarmac. These conditions, there's not much grip on that tarmac, and you're not going to find any more grip on the grass. So, really important in these conditions. There's not too much gravel around the circuit. The biggest risk is getting a tyre on that grass. And the lap will be sacrificed as a result. This is Stoffel in the Haas. Currently P3. Didn't see it, but Quibus went over the line. Got himself out of that bottom 4. And well out of the bottom 4. 140.0 goes up into P2. J-Boy around to set a quick lap, goes up into P3, nicely done, secures his spot. Now Nick Gishin actually coming under threat. Still have 3 cars looking for an improvement, Buster, Namassassin and Dan. Fortunately for Namassassin, he's still on those used inters. I think he needs to come in, get a fresh set of inters and have a final run at this. Nick Gishin, he's at risk, not because he can't improve on that lap. Yes, he can. Incredibly quick driver, but he's chosen to retire from the session. And while Buster and Namassassin in their timing sheets are a long way off at the moment, you know Namassassin is using used tyres, maybe with a fresh set of tyres could make all the difference. Empty out the fuel tank as much as possible. Some fresh rubber, get back out there. Really can eliminate Nick Gishin in Q1. That would be quite the shock. And then Boinky's both sitting in the pits with a set of wets actually. Buster 145.0, Namassassin 48.0, and then Dan, no lap time from Dan as of yet, still looking for that first timed lap. I wonder if he's just struggling to stay within the white lines, just hasn't got that first lap time down, just car getting out of shape, not enjoying these conditions. See if he does get a lap this time. Goes over the line and does get a lap this time. It's a 46.0, so Nick Gishin still safe. 3 drivers. Well, Namassassin improves, but stays P17. It's 43.4. I think that's just as a result of the strategy he chose. He stayed out on those inters throughout, 6 laps on the inters, and now there's not going to be enough time to get back to the pits and have another run. I just feel he should have come in, stripped all the fuel, put on some new rubber. He could have potentially eliminated Nick Gishin from qualifying. Now Fuster, about to go over the line, does improve. It's just enough to go ahead of Namassassin, not enough to get himself out of Q1. Wells can still improve at this time, of course. Fuster, depending on how much fuel he had, there's still time to have another lap, maybe even 2. All depends on how these guys are fueled up at the end. That is your new provisional pole sitter, Kurbis, over the line. 139.3. Then Stoffel P2, 39.9. Another 39.9 for Shane in P3, but he has since retired. Then J-Boy and Wezo, the 2 Salbers, 4 and 5. Boinky's P6, Levy, a retired car, in P7. Then Zero to Cool P8, Panda P9, Secret P10. That's the last round's pole sitter, so I expect much more from him in the coming sessions. Then Rota 11, Will P12, Kev 13, Arno Coast 14, and I think Nick Gishin gonna just be safe. And from what it looks like there in the pits, this rain isn't really letting up. In fact, does anyone see any water puddles in the standing water? I don't see any standing water yet, but definitely looks like it's not getting any lighter. This is Will, his teammate, up in provisional pole. 139.3. Remember, this is just the first qualifying session of 3. They're going to get shorter as we go on. This first one, 18 minutes. Second quali will be 15 minutes. And then the final top 10 shootout, that's just 12 minutes around this circuit. Then we'll head off into the real deal. What the guys come here for, to get points. Of course, no points for qualifying. It's just about setting the grid. If you want championship points, if you want championship accolades, the only way you can do that is in the race. You're not going to win championships with 1 lap pace. It does help though. You've seen the checkered flag. I think these results are pretty much confirmed. Fuster, yes. Dan, yes. They have crossed the checkered flag, so nobody's going to be able to improve. I think everyone's crossed the checkered flag. Kev pulls it into the pits. He's not going to finish that lap. And then we've just got Arno Coast still out there. He might pull into the pits as well. No, he's choosing to finish it. Current best 40.2. I think he improved, but we didn't see the lap time. P5 for Arno Coast. There are those official results. Kurbis P1, then Rota, Stoffel P3, followed by Shane, Arno Close in P5. Then we have J-Boy, Wezo, Boinkies, Levy, and Will making up the top 10. The next 5 are Zero to Cool, Panda, Secret, Kev, and Nick Gishin, safe for now, but those won't be safe positions in Q2. And then Cowboy, Fuster, Namassassin, Dan, and Dan Redfeld will take no further part in quali. Panda, if you're in the comment section still, let me know what's the deal with this rain. Is it going to get lighter in Q3? Are we going to see a dry track at any stage? Are we expecting it to get worse? And what do you and what about the race weather-wise? Of course, we're looking at the vacant and desolate pit lane for the time being. Drivers all sitting in the safety of their dry pit garages, thinking of what to do next. We've got the 15 runners in Q2, 5 drivers already eliminated, which means the race should begin with 20 drivers. Of course, in Q2 we're going to lose the slowest 5 cars. This time Nick Gishin will want to make sure he's in the top 10. Sell this. It's J-Boy. It's going to be the first man out on track. Let's just see if we can get a feel for these conditions. Are we still on the intermediate tyre? Well, a bit of a mix in the field, but that suggests to me that the conditions are worse. Standing water off the racing line. And when you're going for all out pace, it's very easy to go offline. Get on any standing water with a set of inters and that's your lap done. And even with the wet compound, you don't want to be driving through puddles of water. You need to stay on that racing line. That dry line probably not much more narrow than the track width of Monaco. Got all this extra tarmac to use, but you can't use it. To stay online, got to use the best part of the racetrack that's available. I see there's a lot of cars out on outlaps early on, and I wonder, will the conditions be getting worse? Quibus, Will, Kev, Panda, and Stoffel, those 5 cars I just mentioned, they have gone out on the intermediate. So if it is a situation where the track is getting worse and they get it just in the window, it might be a good call. I have no idea what that was, but it looked like we had a Red Bull driving through a pit wall for a second. This is one of those cars on intermediates. He and his teammate have chosen to go with that strategy. Quibus and Will, the 2 Aston Martins, both on an intermediate set of tyres. And it seems like most of the field has gone for the wet. Kev also on the inter. Panda, another one of those drivers, on the intermediate compound. Going from league to league, from one night to the other, it's a bit confusing sometimes. You see the names in certain cars and it just doesn't fit. Yesterday Shane was in the Merc, now he's in a Ferrari. It takes a while to get used to everybody's new placements. Yesterday Stoffel was a Merc driver as well, now he's a Haas driver. Sometimes I'm looking for the driver and I'm going to the wrong manufacturer. I'm looking at the manufacturer logo, looking for the driver, and I get I find somebody else. No lap times yet in Q2, got 11 minutes remaining in the session. Wonder if we're going to see more of what we saw in Q1, where guys just put in a little bit of extra fuel, have some multiple laps. There are your first laps coming in now. Quibus goes over the line at a 140. He's done that on inters. Stoffel second. Then Panda P3. I was going to say the top 3 were all on inters, and then Shane came in with that lap 141.4 on a set of wets. the only wet runner up there. Then Boinky's P5, J-Boy P6. Still, it looks like the mediums were a good call. Now, Stoffel, Panda, Kev, Curtis, 4 of those inter-runners all in the top 5. Let's see what Will can come up with. He is also one of those 5 inter-runners, and he's the last one out on track, so he hasn't set his lap time yet. It's a situation where the track is getting worse and worse, and he's the last one to go over the line. He may get, well, the least of the benefit. Wezo has come into the pits. Or he was in the pits, and he's changed to a set of inters. The driver's taking note of that order. Now Levy also up into the top 5 on a set of wets. Wonder if we're just in that region where both tyres are sort of working. They're in this crossover phase. Will goes up into P5 on a set of intermediates. And from what we can see in that field, the intermediate compound seems to be the better choice if you want to be at the top of that list. Man in P2 just proving me wrong. We almost had just Lebby and Shane splitting up those 5 initial inter-runners. Wezo is now the 6th driver to put on a set of intermediates. He's on an outlap. His teammate going with a very different strategy. J-Boy doing multiple laps on the wet compound. Now remember, we're losing 5 drivers at the end of this session, and at the moment those drivers are Nick Gish and Secret, 0 to Cool, and then Wes and Arno Ghost still have to set lap times. Curtis, fastest man out there on a set of inters. Then Shane, he's in the pits, but he has also fitted a set of inters. Kev in the pits, set of inters. Wonder if the conditions simply just looked worse. Everyone jumped on the wets, and then the evidence proved that the inters were the far superior tyre. Now everybody's switching over. But if the track does get worse, well, everyone's going to look a little silly out there on inters. Of course, the last thing you want to do is crash in Q2. Even if your lap time is good enough for the top 10, any sort of crash means you're not going to be going forward. Although Q3 was just 9 drivers, we've seen that in the past. The last thing you want to do is retire in quali, so you want to get that top 10 lap, and if it's a comfortable lap, you'll be happy with that. No need to be pushing for P1 laps at this point. Of course, that's not how a racing driver's mind works. You want to be at the top of the field every time, whether it's a practice session or a quali session. You want your name up in P1. I believe it was Ayrton Senna that once said, "I am here to win. I am built to win. I'm not designed to finish in P2 or P3 or anywhere else." Yes, that is the mind of a racing driver. Of course, no racing just yet. This is just quali. Guys going around, trying to get around as quick as possible, set the best lap times so they can set, not for now, set a field just yet. Now the target will be within the top 10. The drivers at risk: J-Boy, Rota, Secret, 0 to Cool, and Arno Ghost. Nick Gishin has set a better lap time and got himself out of that bottom 5. It's up into P8. Gerber still the fastest lap so far. Second is Stoffel. The top 2 drivers did it on intermediates. This is Shane. He actually put on a set of intermediates. We saw him put on a set of intermediates in the garage, but he's actually put the wets back on. So everybody is feeling this track a little differently at the moment. Of course, I don't think the wet tyre is going to give you any faster lap time than an intermediate tyre, so I don't think drivers are going to be able to improve on their lap times if this track is indeed getting worse. And with everybody coming in, putting on the wets, that suggests that the track is getting worse. Oh, it's pretty wet conditions. Looks intermediate to me. These guys know a lot more than me, but apparently just look at that field. I think the guys aren't even sure themselves. Half the field's on inters, half the field's on wets. And I think nobody knows where the track is quite at. Panda up into P3. That was on a set of intermediates. Just seems to me those top three drivers all on inters. I think the inter has to be the superior tyre at this stage. So Querbus P1, then Stoffel and Panda, so Haas P2 and 3. Salda, the top Salda at the moment in P5. Wezo, his teammate J-Boy, currently in the elimination zone, currently in the pits, needs to decide what he's going to do. Use another set of wets, maybe slap on a set of inters and have a roll of the dice, but he wants to finish up in the top 10. Currently 2 positions away from that. Look at that, my screen's gone black. There we go, it's back. Otherwise I have no idea how I'd commentate on this. I really don't have any sound, imagine I had no visuals. Stoffel and Querbus, P1 and 2, remain safely in the pits. Panda, I think he's going to return to the pits on this lap. He actually stays out there. I wonder if this just means there's going to be rain in the race and a lot of these drivers just spending a lot of time out on track. Could be just race preparation for a wet race, or maybe I'm just making it up all in my head because I want a wet race in Japan. From a commentary perspective, from a spectator perspective, rain is fantastic. The drivers might not share my sentiments though. Will on an outlap, currently P7, then Kev P8, Nikish and P9. All of those drivers on track, as is Boinky's P10. The drivers at risk: RB, Arno Goos, Salda, J-Boy, the other RB of Rota, Red Bull, Secret, and the Williams of Zero to Cool. So as things stand, Red Bull would have absolutely no representatives. In Q3, both RBs out and the Red Bull. In fact, Rota just confirms that because he's retired from the session, so obviously no time to get back around. So he becomes the first confirmed driver to fall out of quali. Arno Goos on an outlap, J-Boy on an outlap. Final ditch effort to get themselves up into the top 10. If you look at those lap times, they're awfully close to the top 10. It wouldn't take a big improvement. Take something small, something little. And of course, when these drivers go around for their quali laps and they make a mistake, they remember exactly where they made that mistake. So as the session goes on, as you do more and more laps, you're going to remember where the errors are, you're going to remember where the grip is. And Arno goes in P11, needs one position, get himself up into that top 10, secure himself 8th place. Welcome to Marlies, welcome to Jean. Good to have you. You've joined us right at the end of Q2. Just in time for the Q3 top 10 final showdown. At the moment you're watching J-Boy, he's doing everything he can to get himself out of that bottom 5. Zero to Cool also out on circuit, as is Arno Koos. All of those drivers I just mentioned are in the elimination zone, as is Secret. Check flag has gone for him, so he's not going to improve. He's going to start from P14 in this race. It's the driver who started from P1 not so long ago, just a week ago. J-Boy gets himself out of the bottom 5. He'll breathe a sigh of relief. The Bristol 2 drivers looking to improve. Arno Koos on a lap on a set of wets. Zero to Cool about to go over the line. Let's see if he improves. 42.1 is his current best. Good enough for P13, and he improves in a big way. Goes up into P3. Confirms his place in Q3. And now the drivers at risk will... Well, he's not at risk. Checkered flag has fallen. Kev, checkered flag has fallen. The only man that can improve isn't gonna improve, because we just found him stationary on the grass. So Arno Koos, last man over the line, he's not going to be able to improve. And then Nick Gishin, I think that is your session. There we go. Checkered flag has fallen for everyone. Now we will head off into Q3. The drivers that are eliminated from Q2, those will be Will in the Aston Martin. It just disappeared for me, but there it is. Will in the Aston Martin, then Kev in the Alpine, Arno Koos in the RB, then Secret in the Red Bull, and the other RB of Rota. So a dreadful session for the RB team, using not one car but both. Drivers going to Gerber, Stoffel, Zero to Cool, Levy, Nick Gishin, Boinky, Panda, Shane, Wezo, and J-Boy. It's a pretty impressive feat there in the top 10, is that 8 of those drivers did those lap times on the intermediate. Yet 2 drivers managed to get into the top 10 on wets. I think everybody was just a little confused. Didn't know which tyre was best. Track was at a real crossover point. But now we wait to see what Q3 holds. Better conditions, worse conditions, same conditions. That is your answer. So I think we're going to see more of, is it inters, is it wets? The last session, 8 of the top 10 on the inter. So if the conditions are more of the same, I don't think we'll see any wet tires out on track. Okay, I see. Arno is your boy. Welcome, Sean. Always good to see support for the guys. Put a lot of practice in preparation for these races. And sometimes all that preparation, all you need is a bit of rain or a safety car in the race, and everything gets turned on its head. Of course, not the end all for the drivers that have been eliminated. We're going to have a long race ahead of us. That race could be dry, it could be wet, could have safety cars. still much can happen this evening. Teammates pairing up nicely in the top 10. We've got 2 Salvers, 2 Williams, 2 Ferraris, 2 Haas, and the only odd ones out are Curbis in the 1 Aston Martin and Boinkies in the 1 Mercedes. The other 8 drivers all have the company of their teammate in Q3. Of course, always nice to have a teammate buffer behind you. Guys can work in pairs. No DRS in these conditions. We don't know what the conditions are going to be like for the race. If it's going to be more of this, or if it's going to be dry. If it is dry, well then everything changes. This circuit is a very different beast in the dry. In the wet, gotta get around you as quickly as you can, but you gotta respect this race circuit. Otherwise this race circuit will simply spit you out. That is the nature of Suzuka. Of course, for many years this was the finale of the F1 calendar. Sometimes the finale, sometimes the penultimate race on the F1 calendar, so that means a lot of F1 championships decided at this very circuit. I think the 2 most famous championships decided at this circuit were 1989 and 1990. In 1989, Prost ran into Senna as Senna was going for an overtake. Prost led the championship by a point, and as a result of them both retiring, Prost won that championship by a point. And then 1 year later in Suzuka, same scenario, just reversed. Senna this time led the championship by 1 point from Prost and took him out into turn 1, winning the championship. Lots of drama on offer at Suzuka. Of course, back in the 90s, this Grand Prix was so popular that it had a waiting list. It was sold out. I think in the mid 90s it was sold out basically 3 years into the future. Of course, now the only Japanese representation in F1 is obviously Yuki Tsunoda and the presence of Honda, but that could change. Of course, Honda going to the Aston Martin team in 2026, and we could be seeing the introduction of another very big Japanese name by the likes of Toyota buying a portion of Haas. At first it just seemed like it was just going to be an engine supplier, but it looks like they want input on the design of the car too. So we could see something close to a Toyota team in F1 not so far from now. That will definitely increase the popularity in Japan even more. Of course, Toyota also owns a circuit. The Suzuka circuit is owned by Honda. They do a lot of their testing here. Toyota also owns a circuit in Japan. It's the Fuji Motor Speedway, a track that almost hosted Formula 1 in the early 2000s. That never happened because Toyota dropped out of F1 and the funding for the Grand Prix dropped away too. Boinkies up into provisional pole. We've got some lap times on the screen now, a lot of 139s. 39.0 for Boinkies, 39.1 for Wezo, those top two very close together. Then Shane also 39.1, so top three split by 1/10 of a second. Then a bit of a drop, Stoffel 39.9, Nick Gishin 39.9, then J-Boy 40.6, Panda 40.9. We're still waiting for laps from Zero to Cool, Lebby and Kurbis. Lebby and Zero to Cool on outlaps, this man here on a fast lap. No lap time from him just yet. He was see, I'm getting more of an introduction here. So Marlies is supporting her son Quibus, and then Jean is here to support Arno Vos. So parental support for the Aston Martin team. Hopefully that will propel them to great things in the race. I said it earlier and I'll say it again, qualifying is not the end all. Suzuka, very complicated circuit. Mistakes very easy to happen, and if they happen at the wrong part of the race circuit, you don't get a second opportunity. There will be safety cars, I'm almost certain. We've got a field of 20 drivers around a very technical circuit. Almost certain there will be retirements. One of those retirements will trigger a safety car. It's just, when does it come out? Of course, I think it was in last night's race we saw a very early safety car. That sort of thing doesn't help anyone, especially if you have a wet race. You just need to stay out and hold on to track position. There's no roll of the dice there. Safety cars only become interesting when they're midpoint and further on in the race. I haven't noticed too many drivers doing invalidated laps. We'll find out as the evening goes on if penalties will be a problem here in Suzuka. I've seen in some of the races we've recently broadcast some of the drivers just racking up penalties and then getting to the end of the race and penalties costing them wins and podiums. So another thing for all the drivers is to stay out of that penalties column during the race. The most exciting thing about the race has to be that turn 1. 20 drivers into turn 1 at Suzuka. Frankly, there's only two places I'd want to be, either in P1 or in P20. If you've got a problem with crowding, well then you don't want to start in that midfield. Round about that P8, 9, 10, 11, that's just exactly where I don't want to be in a field of 20 drivers. Although things could be worse. We could have a turn 1 like Monza. Of course, when we do arrive at Monza later this year, viewers will notice that turn 1 has been modified. Still have a pretty steep chicane, but it has been widened. So hopefully that will yield better racing into turn 1 at Monza and less lap 1 events, lap 1 disasters. 0 to cool 39.4, good enough for P8 at the moment. Don't know how many drivers are going to be doing multiple laps this time around. 0 to cool. Goes around again. A lot of drivers have come in, put on fresh rubber. All of the top drivers currently in the pits, top 5 in the pits, bottom 5 all out on track. Only 0 to cool on a quick lap. The rest of the drivers on out laps. Boinkies now also emerges from the pits for an out lap. There's only 2 minutes remaining in the session, so if you want to get that final lap in, you need to leave the pits in the next 15 to 20 seconds. You really need to get on with it. Remember, it's going to take you a minute 45, a minute 50 just to get around here. So that time has come and gone. Just a minute 45 left in the session. If you're out on track, you can finish this lap. Once the checkered flag falls, session is over. As things stand, Wezo fastest man, Nick Gishin leaving everything for last. Looked like he was going to fall out in Q1, then in Q2 his time wasn't too impressive. But in Q3 he's pulled out the time exactly when he needed to. He's blindsided his opponents. But surely his opponents know that strategy by now. And it's a pretty old term in F1 called sandbagging. That's when you just go a little slower than you know the car and yourself is capable of. Glad you're enjoying it, John. Just wish I could give you more of the action. Unfortunately, I can only switch through cameras one by one, and sometimes I miss guys setting their pole lap. I don't see everybody coming over the line. Wish we had more camera angles. Fortunately, I've got enough monitors for more camera angles, but the game doesn't allow as such. Just get to look at the one car at a time. Nick Gishin down, I was going to say down into P4, and as I was about to say that, he goes down into P5, so he's gone on an out lap. Where is he on this? He's not going to make it. He's on an out lap. Time has run out. He hasn't got to that checkered flag for the final lap. So session is over for the likes of Stoffel, Wezo and Nick Gishin. Drivers still out on track. Shane, Panda, Levy, for the Zero to Cool and Boinkies. This is Kurbis in one of the two Aston Martins. The other Aston Martin eliminated in Q2, but we'll see him again in the race. And the remaining Aston Martin looking to get as high up the field as he possibly can. Current best is at 36.7. Wouldn't have to find too much time, and he could find a whole handful of positions. Shane, another one out on track, looking for an improvement. Currently P4, 38.3. Got a Ferrari on the outside of the track. It is Levy, just stationary, letting all the cars go by. Currently the quickest man now, Levy. He's just been beaten. Boinkies up into P2, and now Kurbis. Kurbis steals it away. Boinkies held pole position for a matter of seconds, and then it was over. Kurbis up into provisional pole position. I'm still calling it provisional because Levy's out on circuit. He seems to have... That is not a quick lap. He's going around there way too slowly. Shane over the line, only good enough for P5, 38.1. And the time's really so close. He had another 2/10. He could have found himself on the front row. So now everyone has crossed the checkered flag. Time has run out. Now we'll just simply wait for the end of this session and the official results. And then we'll be underway for the race. Of course, 50% race around the Suzuka circuit. 20 drivers in the field. Lots to look forward to. What will the weather do? I've asked the drivers multiple times. Panda hasn't let me know. So I don't know. Will it rain in the race? Won't it rain in the race? We're going to have to wait and see. All will be revealed. But that is the order for the top 10. Burbis takes P1. Boinky's P2. He held it for a brief period of time. Then Levy P3, Panda P4, Shane down in P5, Stoffel P6, then we've got Wezo in P7, J-Boy P8, Nick Gishin P9. Really fell down the order at the end there, and then Zero to Cool makes up the top 10. And interestingly enough, just I noted that, I said that 8 of the drivers would be enjoying their... Rather, 4 of the drivers would be enjoying their teammate in the top 10. Then there were 2 odd drivers out. The 2 odd drivers out are the same 2 drivers on the front row. So it seems like not having a teammate in the top 10 was a good omen. Well, we had questions, and there's your answer. Blue skies, drivers will be relieved, breathing a sigh of relief. So next couple of moments we'll just be looking at the pits. If you're wondering why that is, that's just the guys doing final touch-ups to their strategy. What tyre are they going to start on? How deep into the race do they intend on pitting? Do you anticipate rain? Do you anticipate safety cars? Do you under fuel? Lots at play. And the moment one of those drivers hits X on their controller, everybody else is going to have 30 seconds to get on with it. Of course, my memory a little bit foggy. Do 4 leagues. There we go. Just confirmation. We do get the dual green lights. That was what I was confused about, if we were going to have a race start or a formation lap. And there we go. We are having a formation lap. This is one opportunity for all the drivers to get around. This is going to be their first run on the dry compound the entire evening. They've been going around on a very wet Suzuka circuit. Now this is their first opportunity to get out there on the dry compound, feel the dry tarmac. Of course, this lap is to get some tire temperature, some brake temperature, all crucial things when it comes to these Formula 1 cars. These Formula 1 cars were never designed to go slowly. Most of the aerodynamic bits, the tire grip, the way the brakes work, most of those things only really come alive at temperature and at speed. One of the things a lot of drivers have been complaining about on this specific game is tire temps, getting the tires up to temperature, just taking a little longer than they are used to. Sean just asking if there's no rain in the forecast. Unfortunately, because of this game, the spectator does not know if it's going to rain or not. The drivers actually have a bit of a forecast. They have a bit of an idea. We're just going to have to wait and see. But what I can tell you is just keep your eye on the clouds. There are a few clouds in the sky, but there is also blue skies. If that blue sky disappears, we are at risk. Of course, the drivers will also have their mechanic, which I still call Jeff. Is the mechanic that the game gives you. That mechanic will be on the radio telling them if they get a message, rain in 15 minutes, rain in 20 minutes, they'll know what's coming. Now we just wait for this entire field to line up, 20 cars into their grid boxes. If you see any disqualifications, don't be alarmed. That just means the driver didn't park his car correctly. He's going to be pushed back slightly. There we go. Will, one of those drivers, disqualified. Do not worry about that. He will take part in the race. Just didn't get his parking spot on. Means he'll be pushed back a few feet. Gets a slight disadvantage at the race start. I think everybody knows the drill here. It's 5 red lights. Then there'll be a pause. They'll disappear. And 20 drivers will be on their way around Suzuka for 27 laps. Already some aggressive moves there at the start. We see the Ferrari going one way, then the other way. Curvis leads into turn 1. We try and have a look at the entire field. Looks like everybody got through there pretty well considering the circumstances. 20 drivers in this field. Just having a look, looks like somebody's dropping down the field. I think that's 0 to cool down in P17. Curvis out front, things going exactly as planned for the time being. Levy P2. Holding on to the back of the Aston Martin, then Boinky's P3, Panda P4, Shane P5. Hasn't been able to make up any positions. That's where he started. Then Wezo P6, Nick Gishin making up a few positions. He's up into P7, then J-Boy P8, Kev P9 and Will making up the top 10. Got an Aston Martin on either side of the top 10. Curvis out front. Levy not far away. Of course, this is lap 1, so no DRS just yet, but we'll see DRS on the next lap. DRS changes it all. That would be fantastic, but that's like F1 TV level of broadcasting. you want to ride on board with somebody in particular, let me know. We've had our first retirement, and it's a big retirement. It's a big retirement. It's one of the championship contenders. In fact, I think Ferrari are leading the Constructors' Championship, and they've lost one of those drivers very early on in the race. For now, all I see is a caution. Doesn't seem like anybody's going around here very slowly, so just a caution, no early safety car. Of course, that is like the worst case scenario safety car. When they come out early, doesn't really let you roll the dice or do something special. Everybody stays out. Everybody holds on to track position. This has been an awfully long caution, but looking at the track, still no sign of a safety car. This is the leader, Curbis. He will want nothing to do with safety cars for as long as he's in the lead. He's got a 4/10 gap to the car behind him. That's Levy. Those two cars on identical tyres, both new mediums. Pointy's in P3, doing all he can to hold on to the top two, but just now starting to fall adrift. I think it's as a result of him being on the hards. Of course, being on that harder compound right now is going to be tough, but those mediums will drift off first, and then the race will come to the hard runners. For the time being, Pointy's having a difficult time holding on to his position. In fact, he has lost P3 to Panda. Panda now also on a set of mediums. He's got the same tools as the two drivers out front. Let's see if he can reel them in. 2.2 seconds between the top two and the rest of the field. Pointy's in P4. I think he's really struggling to get those tyres up to temperature, because now he's coming under serious pressure from a Williams. Nick Gishin in P5. Didn't have the best qualifying session. Didn't look like he enjoyed himself too much in the rain. But on a dry Suzuka track, seems to have come alive. He's now in P5 and all over the back of the Mercedes-Benz. Had our second retirement of the evening at Stoffel. So down to 18 runners on lap 3 of 27. We have a caution flashing on our screens. And it goes away. Drivers will be grateful of that. Levy has gotten past Curbis, but now Curbis will have the opportunity to come back at him. He's going to have DRS, just needs to stay as close as he can to that rear diffuser of the Ferrari. There we go, you can see the DRS. He's opened up the DRS. That's just going to give him a bit of a boost. There's less drag down the straight, and he's able to get through easily before the corner arrives. And Curbis retakes the lead of the race. Of course, if you can stay this close to each other, you just sit and trade P1 all night. At the moment, 4/10, that gap has just been maintained. Whether Levy was in the lead, whether Curbis was in the lead, this gap has just remained the same. It means these two drivers are matching each other lap after lap. The other Aston Martin of Will, currently in P8. John asking if he can see more on board. Unfortunately, this is the only stream. The game only allows me really one view at a time. We would like some more onboard action of Curbis. Try and keep it in mind. There is the leader. Ferrari just behind him. He's going to get DRS this time. Is he going to be close enough? He's not going to be close enough to be in ahead into turn 1. He would have required a bit of a dive at this early stage. I don't think we're going to see any of that. Marlee's just asking what is DRS. So basically every single track has in some cases 1, in some cases 2, even 3 or 4 DRS zones. These are zones on the circuit, well, always a straight, never involves a corner, and basically if you're within a second of the car ahead, you get DRS. There's a little button on the steering wheel that you can press, your rear wing flap will open up, and all the drag that would be coming off that rear wing, lots of it goes straight through it, and you get a huge advantage in speed. But you only get it when you're within 1 second of the car ahead. So if you make that overtake and you're not able to shake that opponent off immediately, he's going to get DRS and come right back at you on the next lap. And that's what we see between these two. They're just able to match each other lap after lap, and then they're just trading places. Levy did take the lead briefly, Kurbis took it back. The order has stayed the same since. Panda's in P3, but he's having trouble catching up to these top two. The gap was 2.2, briefly dropped to 2, and now back to 2.2. So they are matching each other, it seems, lap for lap on pace. Those gaps that were formed earlier on are not going to be easy to fix, they're not going to be easy to reel in. This is the driver currently just outside of the points. Of course, the top 10 drivers score points, 25 for a victory, and it goes all the way down to P10, just the 1 point for P10. Arno Coast currently in P11 on the doorstep of the points. If any drivers have any mishaps ahead of him, he'll be into the points. Of course, this is what's known as the first stint of the race. This is before everybody goes into the pits. Seems like almost all the field is on a set of mediums. It's just Boinkies there in P6 on a set of hards. That was Nick Gishin just taking a little bit too much curb. We haven't seen any penalties yet, only lap 6. Of course, for those watching for the first time, penalties. Basically you see the white lines on either side of the track. Can't go over those lines, whether you're cutting a corner or whether you're running wide on the exit of a corner. You shouldn't be going over those lines, at least with all 4 wheels anyway. When you do, you get a warning. When you get 3 warnings, it comes with a 3-second penalty. And that doesn't stop. The more warnings you get, the more penalties you get. It can go up 3, 6, 9 and even more. And then of course in a pit stop, if you find yourself going over the speed limit on the pit entry, well, you're going to pick up 10 seconds in one go. In a field that is so close, penalties can destroy your evening. And so far, everyone in the field has made sure that they stay out of that penalties column. Talking of Arno Host being on the doorstep of the points, well, now he's in the points. He's up into P10. Nicely done for the RB driver. Top representative of the Red Bull drivers at the moment. One RB in P10, the other one P17, and then the Red Bull of Namassassin P15. Of course, Secret has been making up positions, hasn't he? He hasn't had the best quali. We know he's quick. Saw him take pole position in the last round. Maybe just Japan, not his favourite track. Even the quickest drivers, there's always that layout somewhere on the calendar that you don't really like. Maybe you're not as competitive at it because you simply don't spend that much time practicing it because you just don't like it. Everyone's got that one track, sometimes more than one. Me in particular, I'm not quick at any track, so I don't need to worry about that. That's why they don't let me drive. I'm only allowed to talk about the races. Curtis still out front, leads from Levy, Panda P3, then Nick Gish in P4, Wezo in P5. And we have our first safety car of the evening. Welcome to safety car land. It's P8, it's lap 8 of 27. We're under our first safety car. If you're new to the channel, you're not familiar with what the safety car does. Well, basically there's been an incident out on track resulting in a DNF. Brings out a safety car. Basically the safety car will reduce everybody's speed. Safety car will wait basically for the leader, then collect the leader. Everyone will drive behind the safety car for 2 or 3 laps depending on how close that field is, and then we'll be back underway. But what a safety car does do is it shakes up the race. Guys that were maybe going to pit in 6 or 7 laps time, they're going to pit right now under the safety car. It changes the whole strategy of the race. What you had in mind going into the race, sometimes you flip a switch as soon as you see a safety car. The top 2 have chosen not to do so. Purvis and Boinkies, they've stayed out on the tyres that they started the race on. All of the next few drivers, Lebby, Panda, Nick Gish and Wezo, Will, all on brand new hards. And I think they may be able to take those tyres right to the end. I wonder why Purvis and Boinkies made that call, and I wonder if they were just past the pit entry when the safety car got called. Everyone else was able to react and they had to stay out and hold on to track position. But what this has done is it's compromised the race of Purvis and the race of Boinkies very badly. Basically, no one had made a pit stop. I lose 20 seconds in a pit stop. It's okay, because my opponent's going to lose 20 seconds in a pit stop. But now, you've got a whole handful of opponents who have already made a pit stop, and they're right on your gearbox. So when it's your turn, you should come out approximately 20 seconds behind some of those cars. So, safety car, sometimes it works for you, brings you back into the race. Other times, can really mess up your chances. But while we're under safety car, I'm just going to take a minute real quick. See, there is a Williams trailing at the rear, but I think this will be the final lap under safety car, so I'll be as quick as I can. Give me 1 minute. Okay, and we're back. So, still under safety car conditions, lap 10 of 27. Kubus leads the way from Boinkies. Remember, Kubus at a big disadvantage now. He's got 9 laps on those mediums. He's going to have to pit. And that field behind him, all compressed, all together, all within a few tenths of each other. Which means if he were to pit now, realistically, he'd come out in P17 at the rear of the field. No problem, Marlies. Any questions from anyone in the comment section? If I'm ever talking about something and you don't know what I'm on about, don't be afraid to ask. Safety car has come into the pits, and that puts Kubus in charge. He basically becomes the safety car for the final few meters. He gets to decide when everybody goes. There can be no passing till the start finish line. Kubus does get a good restart, leads from Boinkies. I think there is an overtake there. Panda gets past Levy into turn 1, nicely done, making the most of the restart. Then Nick Gish in P5, Wezo P6, Will P7, we have Dan P8, then Namassassin in P9, and Kev making up the top 10. Nick Gishin in P5. See the leader in front of him, P2, P3, P4, they're all there. And look at that Ferrari in front of him, that's just Levy, the car squirming on the exit of the hairpin. Just wanting to get on the power, you want to chase that guy ahead of you. Sometimes you just get greedy on the power, the car starts to slide, and just reminds you to be very respectful of that accelerator pedal. You get on the power before the car's ready. Going to be going much further. You have a caution. Just looking around the racetrack for any stationary cars. Don't see one. This is Nick Gishin looking for an overtake. Stuck the nose in there. Tried his luck. Ferrari defended. And he's going to have to wait a little longer. Take P4. No DRS yet. Takes 1 lap after the safety car for DRS to be activated once again. Kubus leads the way from Boinkies. Remember, those 2 cars at the front have not pit. Then Panda P3. Levy and Nick Gishin. 3 retirements in the race so far, and of course, one of those retirements, Stoffel, also out of the race. And then probably the biggest retirement so far, that has to be Shane, championship contender, constructors, championship leader, and half of that Ferrari team out for tonight. We have another caution, and it's right around the track, and that usually means, well, that's what it means. We're under safety car. Let's have a look who has retired. Haven't seen anybody grayed out just yet. Of course, we had Arnaud, Stoffel and Shane, the 3 retirements. I haven't seen a 4th addition to that, but we are getting a full safety car not so long after the last one. Now Kubus and Boinkies come into the pits. But this is literally worst case scenario for them. That safety car has brought the whole field together. Any gaps that existed, they were gone. They've come into the pits, and they're going to come out right at the rear of this field. Of course, unless there were any drivers behind them that chose to pit as well, and luckily for them, There were many drivers that chose to pit. So Kobus and Boinkies re-emerge in P11 and 12. So they've each lost 10 positions. Rota in the one remaining RB, P13, so no points on the night so far for RB. Timing from Arno Koos. Don't know if that means Jean is gone. Jean, are you still here? Let us know if you're still here. Safety car. Out on track yet again. Panda this time round will be in charge of the restart. Levy will be in P2. Nick Gishin, keep on mentioning he didn't have a good qualifying session, at least the lap times I expected from him. I know he's a lot quicker than that. Maybe he just didn't like this Suzuka layout. Just wasn't coming to terms with the track. He's definitely proved me wrong. He's up into P3. And what makes it better is it's not a P3 with a gap. It's not a P3 where you have to go and chase P2 and eventually make an overtake. It's a P3. P1 and 2 just within reach. So just Arno saying that he was actually driving with damage for a majority of that race. Of course, depending on what damage that is. If it's front wing damage, it's a pretty simple fix. You come into the pits, you put on a new front wing, but there are certain things like the underfloor, maybe you go backwards into a wall, you damage your rear wing. Those sort of things cannot be repaired in the pits, and if you've ever broken a rear wing, you'll know that driving becomes almost impossible, and driving at speed, well, that's just not going to happen. Of course, Sean, if this was your first time watching, then make sure to come back next week. DRS yet again, Thursday night. We also stream on Sunday at 6 PM. That's for SKR. And then we have 2 races a week for SAFRL, Tier 1 and 2, Monday and Wednesday night. So we do 4 live uploads a week. Getting a prediction here in the comment section. Nick Gishin. Nick Gishin for the victory. Oh, wouldn't that be something? Didn't appear to be the case in qualifying. In the race, things very, very different. Of course, safety cars have played their role. If you were in the right part of the racetrack at the right time when that safety car came out and you could get a pit stop, utilize the safety car. Saw that go very badly for Kobus and Boinkies in particular. I think what happened with them is they just crossed that pit entry, then the safety car was called, and most of the cars behind were able to jump into the pits. They were forced to stay out, hold on to track position, and now they both find themselves outside of the points. Both got fresh tyres and will be looking to go to the end of the race. Safety car is flashing, and that usually means the safety car is in, and we'll be back underway. Levy versus Panda into turn 1. Doesn't look like Levy got a fantastic start. He's actually down to P4 now. I wonder if there was some sort of contact or anything like that. But now Panda leads the way in the Haas. Nick Gishin, he's made up another position. He was in P3. Now he's up into P2 and looking to change that into a victory. Panda in the final stages of the race. It looks like it's going to have to be a defensive race for him. Either he shakes Nick off, breaks the DRS, or he's going to have his hands full till the end of the race, because that Williams looks very daring. Slowest part of the racetrack. Ooh, and Nick Gishin. It's not what you want to see. Nick Gishin, said it before, said it a few laps ago in fact. The exit of that hairpin, so important, very easy to get it wrong. See the guy ahead of you, he's so close, he's within reach. You get a little too happy on the accelerator, you go a little too early, the wheels aren't straight. And all of a sudden you find yourself facing in the direction of a barrier. So I just want to go back and actually have a look at Nick Gishin's car. Is there damage on the Williams? Can you see damage on the Williams? Well, he doesn't come into the pits, so I don't think he has damage on that car. He's chosen to stay out. If there was something like a broken wing, I'm sure we would see him dive into the pits, try and get that repaired for another safety car. But he's already had one amazing drive tonight. Now he's going to have to do it all over again. And he's added a penalty next to his name. This is Panda in the lead of the race. Wezo P2, Levy P3, Will in the lead, Aston Martin P4. And we've got Sigrid, quick driver, was on top 4 last week. He's been there and thereabouts this week. Just haven't really seen him in the top 3 yet this evening. This race has thrown so many curveballs at us already. Still 9 laps to go. So much can happen. Remember, when we get 3 laps from the end of the race, so that would be lap 24 of 27, that is officially the safe zone. We cannot have any more safety cars with 3 laps remaining in the race. But until lap 24, that possibility is still very much on the table, and this order could flip violently from what you see now. Panda leads the way, Wezo P2. Hi there, we were supporting all the... I can't read that because I've got... What is that? I've got a stupid icon right over one of the letters you've written. Okay, all the PE drivers. Just down from the Eastern Cape. The only province in South Africa I have never personally visited. Marley's now giving her prediction for a race win, and it's this man here, the man at the front. Looked like he was going to have a very difficult job defending. He had Nick Gishin all over the back of that car. Nick Gishin has fallen off. You saw him make that mistake. He's since... In fact, I was going to say he's come into the pits, but he hasn't come into the pits. He's just riding around in P16, well outside the points. Panda out front. Wezo's still within DRS. So still very much a risk. Levy also there in P3. Remember, within a second means DRS, big assistance on the straights. Once you fall out of that 1 second gap, you no longer get that advantage. And that makes catching up a lot more difficult. Top 3, Panda, Wezo, Lebby, Will P4, Boinkies P5. And this field is close together. We've had multiple safety cars, so penalties. Luckily no penalties for anyone there in the top 10. We've seen penalties cost driver points. We've seen them cost podiums. And even just last night, we saw penalties cost someone a sprint race victory. So everyone in the top 10 there, actually everyone in the top 11 have done fantastic job to stay out of the points column, especially around a track like Suzuka. Have a caution. Luckily it's not flashing, so I don't think it's going to be anything more than that. Panda leads the way, Wezo P2, Lebby P3. Yeah, no, definitely Nick was having a great drive. Really looked like his car came alive in the dry conditions. He was potentially looking at a victory there because his speed looked insane. But unfortunately for him, down in P16. The best he can hope for at this stage is points, but he's pretty far off the points. Panda still out front. There's still P2, well within DRS. Then Lebby, P3, also well within DRS, so those three cars sticking together quite nicely. Then Will, he's fallen back. You can see there 3.5 seconds, so no DRS for Will. Far behind him though, Boinkies, 9/10 of a second. He's going to be able to attack. Any gap you see there on your timing screen that is below a second, that is a DRS battle. That's why I get so frustrated. I'd love to bring you guys more of the action. There are currently 4 different DRS battles on the circuit, but I can only show you one at a time. And most of the time when I'm trying to flick between them, that's when all the good stuff happens and we miss it. So it's pretty difficult to take the camera away from these 3 leaders, because if something big happens and we miss it, I end up feeling kind of silly. But Will P4 still defending from Boinkies, who's well within DRS. Then Dan Ritfeld further back in P6. He's got Kurbis just behind him, who's having a good recovery drive. Remember, he went all the way down to P11 as a result of those out of sync pit stops. Just getting caught out by the safety car. No real fault of his own. Just wasn't able to react to the safety car. Everyone else was. And that just really came to track placement when that safety car was triggered. Sometimes you're awfully lucky. Other times it can kick you pretty hard. Generally, if you're at the rear of the field, you will welcome each and every single safety car. If you're at the front of the field, you'd prefer to not even have one. Look at that, the man in P6, Kurbis, he's just set the fastest lap of the race. You can see the purple lap there on your right hand side. Kurbis P6, quickest man on the circuit. He's got a set of hard tyres, 8 laps old. He'll be able to go easily to the end of this race. In fact, all of the cars ahead of him have older tyres by approximately, 4 laps. So he might just have some sort of advantage at the end. Don't think those tyres, those hards will drop off too much at the end, because remember, we've spent a lot of time behind the safety car driving slowly. That just means those tyres are going to be going a little further on into the race. but I'm sure he should have some sort of tyre advantage at the end there with four less laps of tyre wear. Panda's still out front, and now he's just gone over that 1 second barrier. That means DRS is no longer active. As for Wezo, well, he's still got Levy within his DRS. And let's have a look. See if we can give Marlise a display of DRS. This is Wezo. And this is Levy just behind him. You see that wing, it just opened up. All that air that's passing through that gap would normally be hitting the back of the wing, causing drag, causing you to be a little slower. By that wing opening, it means you can just go a little quicker than the car ahead of you. And assists in bringing a few more overtakes to F1. F1 already doesn't have enough overtakes, and if you were to take DRS away, overtakes would be a very rare relic with these current cars. Webber's still on the move. We saw him set the fastest lap. Now he's all over the back of Boinkies. Can see those top three just starting to get away. And if he intends on finishing on the podium, he needs to get past Boinkies now and get on with the race. 4 seconds between Boinkies and the top three. I think it might be a little bit too late. 4 seconds with just 4 laps to go. Remember, when we get to lap 24, we can have no more safety cars. And now Boinkies. Quibus up into P4. Lined him up nicely. Panda, Wezo, Levy. You couldn't get a closer top three with so few laps remaining if you tried. Top three drivers within 0.8 of a second. Just 4 laps to go. Further back we've got Secret P9, Kev, the final points position. Rota's trying to take that point away from him. He's in P11. Nam Assassin P12, Foster 13, Cowboy 14, Dan P15. Nick Gishin must have some sort of damage on that car. He hasn't been able to come back. I wonder if he's just put on the soft tyre. I think I know why he's put on the soft tyre. Nick Gishin has just gone in, put on the soft tyre. Obviously at this point of the race he's got very little fuel in the car. He's aiming for the fastest lap of the race. He's not in the top 10, so he's not going to get a point for that fastest lap. So you'd be asking yourself, what's the point? What's the point of the fastest lap? Well, if you're in a championship battle and you could potentially steal a point from one of your rivals, that could be the point that wins you the championship. Of course, in 1989 and in 1990 as well as 1994, championships were won by just 1 point. Of course, a very different point scoring system at that time. But if you want to know how important each and every single point is, go and look up the F1 2021 season. Both drivers arriving at the final round on equal points. Not going to be able to remember what they were now. They were identical points for the two drivers. And then obviously we had I guess you can call it a bit of a controversial race. One driver had to win, the other had to lose. And that also involved a safety car. So many things that could have gone slightly different in that championship, and Abu Dhabi would have never even been a thing. Every single result, every single point you can steal, even if it's just that fastest lap bonus point. Not allowing Panda to take the full 26 points on the night, that sort of thing. Every little bit counts. He knows he can't score points, but at least he can take 1 point away from someone. Still with Panda. 6/10 of a second is the gap. Salvo just braked so much later, got really close. Panda got a really good exit. Panda out front, Wezo P2, Lebi P3. These three drivers continuing to match each other lap after lap. These gaps are just staying pretty much stationary. They're maintaining these gaps, and that's just because the lap times are so similar. Nick Gishen has now retired from the race. Luckily it's on lap 25 of 27, which means we can't have any more safety cars at this late stage. Luckily for everyone in the top 10, I don't think the race is going to be decided by penalties either. Everyone keeping it clean, keeping it within the lines. It's also a circuit you don't want to be doing too many invalidated laps of. Doing invalidated laps, that usually means you're on the grass at some point. Around here, that could be the end of your race. Just one tire on the grass. Of course, the only track on the F1 calendar that has the figure of 8, which means it crosses over itself. But an interesting fact is that in Suzuka's very first, well, I can't call it its first layout because it was never built, but in its first ever idea, it actually had 4 crossover points. Unfortunately, that was not the track that was built. I think that would have looked quite interesting. But still, it has that iconic part of the race circuit that sets it apart from anything else on the calendar. We're now starting lap 27 of 27, and Wezo's left it right to the end to snatch the lead away from Panda. Panda's going to have 2/3 of a lap to try and retake that lead, but Wezo, he's left it late. He's left it to exactly when it counts. Boinky's P4, Kurbis in P5, still chasing down that Mercedes. Left the front and something's happened at the front. Wezo leads the way from Lebi, and now Panda, he's actually dropped down to P3, and he's dropped down quite substantially. He hasn't just fallen to P3. There's now a gap between him and the top 2 drivers. He's actually going to come under pressure from Boinkies. Hopefully for him there's no damage on that car. He just had like a off-track excursion rather than any contact. If he does have damage on that car, he's going to have a very difficult time. The nature at which he's going around Spoon, I don't think he's got any damage. Seems to have all his wings, otherwise he'd be going very wide if he was going at that speed. At the front, it's almost over. Wezo leads the race. Lebi could do something crazy, but he's not going to be close enough, and there's really not much more you can do. Wezo is going to be the first one over the line. It's going to be followed closely by Lebi. Panda, was able to hold on to P3. Looked like he might lose the podium altogether. Then Boinkies comes over the line in P4, Kurbis P5. Then the other Aston Martin, Will in P6, Zero to Cool P7, Dan Redfeld, Sigrid, and Kev. Those are your top 10 runners. We'll now just wait for those official results. Let the game work out all the penalties. Otherwise, I'm probably just going to be reading out the wrong order over and over. This is Cowboy. P14, Dan just behind him. He's defending P14, but he's got a penalty, which means Dan will take that position regardless if he gets past him on track now or not. Cowboy. Ooh, that almost got messy. Dan almost lost it around the final corner. That could have been very messy. There we go, folks. That was round 4 of season 11. The stream has not broken. I've just had to mute the background music because F1 loves to copyright everything. There are your official results. Wezzo takes the victory, followed by Levy in P2 and Panda P3. Looked like he was going to win that race right to the end. Then Boinkies takes P4, Kurbis P5. It's followed by Will, Zero to Cool, Dan Ritfeld, Sigrid, and Rota, making up the top 10. No points on the evening. Kev P11, Namassassin P12, Fuster 13, Dan 14, and Cowboy making up the field. J-Boy, Nick Gishin, Arnoho, Stoffel, and Shane failing to finish. Of course, now the top 3 drivers, as well as the driver of the day. I didn't actually see who the driver of the day was. Let me know in the comment section if you saw. But the top 3 drivers are invited to the NFR cool down room. That's on the NFR Discord server. You can just join the cool down room. I'll bring you into the comms box if you would like to have a little bit of a chat about your race. Just going to give the drivers a minute or two, see if anyone does want to join. Sometimes the guys are just mic shy and other times they're just not in the mood. So we'll wait and see. Of course, if you decide to stay with us, the drivers should be here shortly. If not, I hope to see you next Thursday. Let's see in the Discord what's happening. Is anyone there? Appears to be the case. This is my computer going on a bit of a go slow, but we'll get this ready shortly. There we go. I think we've got Panda. We'll bring Panda in so long. If anybody else does join, we'll bring them in accordingly. Okay, so we have Panda in the comms box. Panda, can you hear us?
Yep, loud and clear, Fernando. Just give me 1 second. I just want to get the other gents in.
Not a problem. Of course, if anybody in the comment section has a question for one of the drivers, can pop that in there, and if it comes through quick enough, I'll get that question through to one of the drivers.
All right, I think Getai Lebby is in the lobby or the cool down room.
Lebby. Lebby
Yeah.
is beastie. There we go.
It's a, yeah.
Lebby, you're also now in the comms box. Can you hear us? Not yet, apparently. So, Panda, at the end there, it looked like you'd done enough.
Yeah, just not enough. That second last lap, I didn't save enough ERS, so obviously I knew as soon as obviously Wes are behind me with DRS. So yeah, I think I just slipped up the last lap or the second last lap, not saving enough ERS, and then yeah, I couldn't do anything. I was happy with P2, and then I lost it almost on the last lap. So coming away with no damage and P3, I don't think that's a bad result at all.
It also looked like Nick Gishin had you lined up at a stage, and then his race didn't go well. He obviously came off the circuit, finished outside the points.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it was
I
just
didn't
pushing too hard.
I didn't notice who actually got the quickest lap. Was it someone inside the top 10?
I'm actually not so sure. I think the last time I saw was Kobus.
Because I saw right at the end, Nick Gishin came in. He was outside the points, but he came in. He put on a set of softs. He did a lap. I didn't see what it was, and then he retired. So I was wondering if
Yeah,
he just tried to steal the fastest lap, because obviously you don't get the 1 point outside the top 10, but you can steal that point
yeah,
from somebody who would have got it. So
yeah,
when you can't
100%.
score
And I think
points
that's
anymore,
exactly what he did.
at least try and take one away.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm looking at the data now. It's Nick did have the fastest lap.
So I think that's exactly what he did. I think at that point in the race, he just saw he couldn't come back and score a point. He was too far away from P10, so he just thought, okay, well if I can't score one, I'll just make sure they don't score one.
Yeah, exactly.
BC, Lebby, can you hear us? Are you muted?
Hello, Fernando.
Oh, there we go.
Hello.
And how was your race? How did you find that? Tell us from qualifying to the race. What a qualifying session! It was a messy one.
Yes, the qualify. Okay, was bad. The first one was very bad, I must say. But I think my Q3 I did actually good. I missed up on the first sector, I think, but I still managed to put a nice lap.
How did you find the what was your preference there? Are you a wet weather driver? Did you like the qualifying? Would you have wanted some rain in the race, or was the drama in the race enough?
I didn't actually expect it to rain, but I hate racing in the rain. Actually, I don't like the rain.
You know,
but like I said, it was a really good lap, and I'm happy about the results.
well, one of the greatest drivers to ever drive in the rain, Ayrton Senna, when asked, "You must really like driving in the rain." Somebody asked him that one day, why are you so good driving in the rain? You must really love it. And his answer was, I hate driving in the rain. So I don't think anybody really likes it. We've also now
Not
got
really.
now Dan Ritfeld in the comms box. Can you hear us?
Yeah, driver of the day.
Driver of the day. Tell us a little bit about your race. Can you hear me? Dan Ritfeld has just muted himself. There we go. Hopefully he'll be back. Panda also muted himself. Panda, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
We're just waiting for Dan Ritfeld. Just before he was about to answer, he somehow hit the mute, and now the headphones are gone. So I'm not sure what's happening there. But hopefully we do get him back. What was that overtake right at the end? I mean, you were battling the Ferrari most of the way, and then the Sauber just came out of nowhere, jumped you both. It was a close race throughout, but honestly, from a commentator's perspective, I was hoping that qualifying weather would go straight through into the race.
Yeah, no, look, I wouldn't have enjoyed that. I don't know. Something with a new game in the wet weather, racing is not as fun as it used to be. So I'm actually glad it was dry.
Was I right in the session saying that a lot of the drivers are complaining about tire temperature? Is that still
Yeah.
is that still a
Yeah,
thing?
that's still an issue. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know how Algete's the hards was after the safety car, but with the safety car restart, I almost lost it because my tires were not heating up at all.
And what about you guys, tire wear? Like in terms of, are you guys getting equal tire wear? I've seen on some tracks like maybe your left front will take an absolute beating, or I did a race not so long ago where basically all three of my tires were on 40% and I had one on 87. So do you guys get do you have to like manage the tires towards the end if there's a worrying tire, or are they pretty
Yeah, I think.
much evenly worn out?
No, so I think with the new game, obviously you're with a new tire model. Your tires definitely they don't wear the same. I mean, last night with SAFRL, I mean your left side front and rear was basically broken, and the right side was completely fine. I think Japan was a bit better. There wasn't any concern about tire wear or anything. I feel Japan was actually quite light on the tire wear.
And then obviously, look, the safety cars also help with the tire wear, you know, because you're driving around slowly behind a safety car. If there's two safety cars, that's 6 laps driving around slowly, not really wearing anything on those tires. So
Yeah, no, definitely.
do we have Dan Ritfeld back? You're still muted on your side. Heard him briefly, but then he was gone. This is not up to Sky Sports broadcast standards.
Yeah, I think we lost Dan, to be honest.
I think David Croft would have walked out of this. Be like, no, I'm out. But luckily, I'm not. Luckily, I'm not David Croft. Otherwise, no. I'm not a fan. Can you tell? That's why I watch F1 TV. So
Yeah, exactly.
that's the best way of getting around Ted Kravitz and David Croft, and just get F1 TV, and that's my F1 TV promotion. So so we've had Panda, we've had Levy, we've also got Dan Ritfeld here, but unfortunately we can't hear him. He's muted. I think he's not going to be coming back. And so we've kept some of the viewers. So to everybody who's watched all the way, to Levy, to Panda, to Dan Ritfeld, who was almost here, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. And of course, the channel will be back on Sunday night for SKR. And then again next week, SAFRL and DRS on Thursday. Remember, DRS 7:30, not 8 o'clock. Until next time, to the viewers, cheers.
Okay. Yeah.